I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, February 11th. If everybody would please stand for the pledge, and I would ask that you remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And so now if we remain standing, I'd like to just take a minute for a moment of silence to recognize Member Snyder, who's no longer with us in his recent passing, and just appreciative of all the things that he's done for our community. So if everybody join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. And Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Peters?
Here.
Member Benedict?
Here.
Member Estrada?
Here.
Member Dugan?
Here.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Here.
Chairman Miller?
Here. Thank you. Director, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
All right. First agenda item then is approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from last meeting?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, so we're going to jump into new business. Before we get started, this fun world of technology, we'll just go over. Staff will get the opportunity to present each agenda item. The commission will get the opportunity to ask questions of staff. Once that's done, then we will have the applicant and or their representative come forward. They will be able to do any additional presentation, answer any additional questions. From there, we will open it up to the public. If anybody from the public would like to comment on this agenda item, we ask that you will keep it to the 3 minutes, as well as if you have specific questions, it'll be my goal to take note of those questions, and then that way at the end we can have the appropriate party come forward, whether that be staff and or the applicant, to answer those questions, so we won't do it right while you're at the podium. And then we will also add in the element of if there are any Zoom or electronically attending members, and so we will give them an opportunity as well. So with that, we will start with the first agenda item, public hearing on a request by City of Casa Grande, DSA 20-00190, amending the height requirement for flagpoles in the zoning and sign code.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. City of Casa Grande is requesting a zoning code text amendment to ensure that the city has a consistent and implementable code and remove or remedy any conflicting code regarding the allowable height of flagpoles. Currently, the code has conflicting information when it comes to the height of flagpoles. This code text amendment is intended to simplify the standard. So, to do that, we're going to amend section 103.A.1.c of the sign code to read, flagpoles in residentially zoned districts shall not exceed 20 feet in height. Flagpoles in all other zoning districts shall not exceed the maximum building height of the zone district in which they are located. Previously, it was 35 feet in those other zone districts. This will align it more with the height and the scale of the buildings that are being proposed in those commercial and industrial districts. In conjunction with that, we are going to delete 17.52.250A4, which states height limitations shall not apply to, and number 4 is flagpoles. So there's conflicting information of of how tall and what standards we can set on the flagpoles. So we did send out notification efforts. We posted it in the newspaper. We did get a couple of calls inquiring about existing non-compliant flagpoles and things like that nature, but no real contentious or any opposition to this code text amendment. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a favorable recommendation to the mayor and city council for adoption of DSA 2000190, the proposed code text amendment amending all the allowable height of flagpoles in the zoning and sign code. Do we have any questions?
Questions for staff?
I got one. If the commercial guys out there, like Lucid one, they're put up a big flagpole, they're limited to 60 feet also? There's nothing in here about industrial area.
They could, technically, they're in an I2 zone district, so they could go to 75 feet with
They can
theirs.
go to
The
75.
maximum height of that district is 75 feet.
Yeah. And there's no requirements of how big of a flag you can put on them, is that correct? You can put as big a flag on there as you want.
We do have some limitations when it comes to model home complexes in the sign code. The sign code does address some of the maximum size of the flag can be.
Okay.
There's actually a code as well, like not a code on the city books, but flag code in general that says based on the height of a certain pole is the size of a certain flag, just as far as they come in pretty standard.
Yeah, because years ago, in the 70s and 80s, you drive across this country and you would see some flags that were just massive. They really stood out, and that's what I'm saying is, which is great, I think, but if the guy wanted to put a great big flag on there,
Yeah,
you might not allow that.
all right, that's correct.
Any other questions for staff? All right, and since staff is the applicant, I will then go ahead and open it up to the public.
All right.
Would anybody from the public like to speak to the agenda item? Seeing nobody, and then via Zoom or electronically, video conference. Mr. Horn, no? All right, I'm going to close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA-20-00193 to change the code text amendment on the flagpoles.
Wait a minute.
To the council.
Yeah, hang on. You are making a motion to forward a favorable recommendation to the mayor and city council.
Okay, it
for
goes to the
DSA
city
20.
council, I'm sorry.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
For DSA 20
Yeah.
-00190.
Yep, got it, yep.
Motion in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, will you please call the roll?
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict. Yes. Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes,
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Next agenda item, public hearing and consideration of request by Marcus Romero, conditional use permit DSA 20-00189 to allow for a residential dwelling unit in a B3 zone district.
All right, thank you. Marcus Romero is requesting a conditional use permit to allow for a residential dwelling unit in the Central Business Zone District, which is the B3 zone district, at 413 and 417 North Florence Street. You can see the location shown below. It's in our downtown area. Applicant is requesting to utilize a vacant second floor area as a modest residential unit for the business owner who will occupy the first floor commercial storefront space. Residential dwelling units are required to obtain a conditional use permit in the Central Business or B3 zone district. This will be one of the first, if not the very first, live-work space located in the downtown area. Staff believes this is a great opportunity to incorporate a mixed-use project in that area, as it has been emphasized in the current 2020 general plan and the proposed 2030 general plan. You can see I just showed a simple layout of the proposed apartment. When we're looking at the review criteria, we cover the 5 criteria. They're all covered in your staff report. We're going to concentrate on the two that are highlighted as they're probably the most impacted review criteria for this proposal. The first is that the proposed use will have no adverse effect upon abutting property. The use as a residential unit is not expected to have any adverse effect. The applicant did reach out to neighboring business owners prior to the application submittal. None had objections to the request, and some felt it might possibly be safer having a neighboring business owner always nearby. Below, you can see the location. On Florence, there's no windows out that way, but you can see on the back of the building, there's a door and a couple of windows over on that side. The next criteria is that the proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. So the site's in the community center general plan category. The following general plan policies support this request. Policy C541, historic downtown, is in the Phase 1 growth area and will focus on creating a vibrant, mixed-use, pedestrian-friendly center. The next one is facilitate intensive, retail-oriented, mixed-use developments in the downtown growth area. And the third policy that is applicable is regenerate underused buildings and areas that are located within the historic downtown. We did send out public notification. We met or exceeded all requirements. We did get a couple of calls just getting more information. No opposition for this particular use. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission approve DSA 2000189, a conditional use permit, and its associated resolution to allow for a residential dwelling unit in the B3 zone building located at 413 and 417 North Florence Street. Do we have any questions?
Questions for staff? No? No questions for staff? All right. At this time, would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward, speak to this agenda item?
My name is Marcus Romero. I was one who put this together. I was born and raised in the city, did 4 years in the military.
Do we have that? I think we
got it.
don't have the mic on now.
Oh, we don't have the microphone turned on.
Can you hear me?
There we go. All right.
All right, my name is Marcus Romero. To put a face to the guy, I'd be the occupant. I'm currently opening up a retail shop at 413. Hopefully I'll be open by March 1st. So I'll also be living in there if this gets approved and the landlord, puts forth and everything goes accordingly.
Great. Any questions for the applicant?
What kind of shop are you gonna have in the bottom?
Skateboard shop, Casa Grande skate shop.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank-
Member McBride.
Yeah, I just want to commend you on doing what you're doing. It's really going to put something for Casa Grande. It's going to hopefully start a trend on people moving into the downtown area. It's something that we've been wanting for a long time.
Appreciate
And
that.
I really like the area. That was, the 5 and 10 cent store when I was a little kid, right across from the theater. So it's a really neat location. I'm glad that the storefront's not changing, that you're able to get your housing unit up there. So it's,
Thank you.
I commend you on it.
Anything else? No? Awesome. Well, thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate
Thank you.
While we wait here, I would recommend if there's anybody online that would like to speak to this, raise their hand so that way we can take note. So with that, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody. Anybody online? Nobody online? All right, I will close the public portion, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to Make a motion, please.
Member McBride, by all means.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve DSA 20-00189, conditional use permit and its associated resolutions.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Natalie, please call the roll.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict, Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right, motion approved. Congratulations, good luck with your project downtown. All right. Next agenda item, public hearing and consideration requested by Hilgard Wilson, DSA 20-00118, zone change from garden and light industrial to I-1 to single-family residential R2. Mr. Horn?
All right, Hilgard Wilson, in conjunction with Larry Yount, is requesting a zone change from garden and light industrial to single-family residential with the R2 zone district for approximately 26 acres of land, generally located on the northwest corner of Florence and Ash. You can see the location of the site. Down below, it's just south of downtown. The request is to allow for the development of 112 single-family residential lots with a gross density of 4.3 dwelling units per acre. Proposed development has certificate of assured water from ADWR. The applicant has provided a conceptual lot layout with this submittal. A key aspect of the lot layout includes 2 roadway connections to the residential to the north. The roadway connections are critical to creating a development that is linked to the existing downtown area, and in doing so will support, benefit, and help revitalize that area. Another feature shown on the plan is the potential for the city to place a roundabout intersection at Florence and Ash, and that is intended to create an entry point for the downtown. So staff feels this is a good opportunity to provide workforce housing near the downtown and the industrial area of the city. Just to kind of give you a brief overview, this is the conceptual layout at the time. It could change when they go into the plating, but this is kind of where staff and the applicant kind of work to get to. But again, this is conceptual, potentially could change, but this is kind of the general layout. When looking at the review criteria, we look to make sure that the proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. You can see the general plans in our community center. So the first review criteria is the actions consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and applicable elements. Among other items, this request supports the following goals. The area for the proposed request lies in the Phase 1 or the primary growth area. The requested zoning of single-family residential is appropriate in the community center land use category. The second one that we look at is the rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified uses. This request for a zone change to single-family residential with the conceptual 4.3 dwelling units per acre is an allowable and appropriate land use within the general plan. Number 3 is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs and residents of the city. So the zone change will allow for new workforce housing that will be a catalyst to revitalizing the downtown area. Its location between the downtown and the manufacturing corridor will be beneficial to both areas. In regards to notification, staff met or exceeded all requirements. We did not receive any inquiries in this particular case. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval of the zone change request from garden and light industrial, I-1, to single-family residential, R2, with the following conditions of record. The first is to provide a minimum of 2 roadway connections to the downtown street network at Mercedes Avenue, Catherine Avenue, Sackatone Street, or Top and Bottom Street. And the second one is provide right-of-way dedication to accommodate the potential roundabout at the Florence and Ash intersection at time of plating. Do we have any questions?
Questions for staff? Member Benedict?
What's the conceptual use of the blank spot in the middle between Sierra Street and Shasta Street?
Can you repeat that, please?
Am I on? Okay. What's the conceptual use for the blank spot between, what is it, Sierra Street and Shasta Street?
Oh, that's open space for the neighborhood. And then the north portions are mainly used, they're going to be open space and retention. And there's an existing drainage channel up on the north as well.
Any other questions? Member Dugan?
The conceptual plan now, there's supposed to be, what is there, 112?
12.
What is the size of the lots on average with that in there? You have
Well,
any
the
idea
minimum-
what's,
the
how big it
minimum
would be?
lots-
What's that?
Well, the minimum lot for the zone district is 5,000, but we haven't confirmed I think all these are laid out around that square footage or above, slightly above. I can let the applicant maybe touch on that. But again, this is conceptual, so they will have to be a minimum of 5,000 square feet. They have to be at least 45 feet wide by 90 feet deep.
Any other questions? No? Member Benedict, yeah?
Just a comment, I think, when you come, the next steps, I think, are where you're gonna be considering these, this drainage channel, my recollections, there's been water run issues in that, and so us old guys would like you to be sure that that's taken care of before you put houses in it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Has that area ever been underwater?
I don't believe it's in a flood zone.
At the next step, which will be the preliminary plat, we will get a drainage report, which we can talk about the drainage when we bring that back before you.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? No? Great. So then at this time, I believe we have a applicant online?
Yes.
Here we go.
This is Cindy Paddock. This is Cindy Paddock with Bogart Wilson, representing the applicant, LKY Development. Good evening, board members. I'm happy to answer any questions. We don't have any comments or concerns about the staff report.
Great.
The question was just posed about the lot size. Joe is correct. There's be a minimum of 5,000 square foot lots.
Great, thank you. Does this include a roundabout on that screen?
It's on the right.
Is that conceptual as well there? Yeah.
You can see,
All right,
yeah, you can see in the bottom corner.
all right. That's getting fancy with roundabouts. Any questions for the applicant?
Any time limit as far as when you would start this project if ever you get approved?
They're presently not a specified builder for the project, but it's anticipated that it would start as soon as there's someone has purchased the property and the improvement plans can be prepared. Larry, do you have anything to add?
No.
I don't, other than the market is ready, so I would expect it soon.
Okay.
Very close to Lucid.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? No? Well, thank you both for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, at this time, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody in person, anybody online? Seeing nobody online, I will close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission.
I'd just like to make a comment.
By all means, make a comment.
It's something that, if we can remember back over the last 2 or 3 years, this was in the the plans when they were all doing the Lucid setup and all of the industry out there. They're trying to get the housing in there. They're next to that, the plot next to it, they're trying to get a school of some type, trade school back in there. And this, from what I can recall a few years back, this was the first step, getting housing out there closer to the area. And it's, looks like it's supposed to be affordable housing. It's not big luxurious lots. It's size of lots that people need to build houses on to get started with.
This zoning change, is this gonna go to, if we approve it tonight, does this have to go to the city to get to also?
Yeah,
We're
it'll
just
go
making a
through-
recommendation to the city?
It'll go through council,
It'll go to the council, okay.
yes.
Any other, yeah, Member Peters.
I would just like to move to approve the staff recommended recommendation of approval of the zone change request for DSA-20-00118 from light garden and light industrial to single-family residential with the following conditions of record as noted on the staff plan.
Great. So I have a motion to
A
forward the
second.
recommendation?
To forward.
To forward to the city council.
Oh, did you? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you guys, don't worry, I'm on it. I've got a
I bow
motion.
to you.
That's right, I got a motion to forward the recommendation. I've got a second. Any discussion? Hearing none? Linda, would you please call, or, look at her, she's been gone for 2 meetings. I've did it for so long. Natalie, will you please call the roll?
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Benedict?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. Sorry about that, by the way, Natalie. I did not mean to, but old habits die hard, right? This is-
As you recall, I was called Vice Chairman Benedict for about a year.
You've been called worse things.
Not much.
Easy, I don't know, yeah, I don't know. All right. Next agenda item, public hearing and consideration of request by Hilgard Wilson, DSA 20-00119, zone change for garden and light industrial I-1 to a planned area development, or PAD, for single-family rental homes.
That's a pretty interesting night for the downtown area. So this one is Hilgard Wilson in conjunction with Lariana is requesting a zone change from garden and light industrial I-1 to planned area development, PAD, for approximately 10.5 acres of land generally located on the northwest corner of Florence and Ash. You can see the location just right abutting the previous presentation site. So LKY Development Company is proposing to entitle the 10.5 acre property as a single-family build-to-rent, or BTR project. This is the first request of this type of product for the city. Existing city development standards do not include standards for this type of request. The PAD zone does provide some flexibility for the proposed project. However, this proposal is required to justify any departure from the 2003 residential design standards. The project is anticipated to develop as a mix of unit types. There will be 1 and 2 story detached and duplex units with 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and potentially 3 bedroom units. Conceptual land use plan provided shows a site layout with 116 units at an overall gross density around 11 dwelling units per acre. The site layout will be designed and approved through the final development plan or the major site plan process. So staff sees this request as a good addition to the nearby downtown area and believes the project provides the potential to facilitate in the revitalization of the southern portion of the downtown area. When looking at the PAD, we look at the following criteria. They've all been covered in your staff report. We're going to kind of concentrate on the top 3 as they're the most impactful for this request. First one is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. The proposed project is being submitted concurrently with that neighboring traditional single-family zoning that we just saw. Combined, the submittals will provide a good transition between the downtown area and the industrial corridor. So one item that the applicant and the staff were unable to come to an agreement on was the required setbacks regarding the perimeter buffer, particularly in the case where the site abuts the industrial zoning. Staff feels that the perimeter buffer area between this use and any industrial zone property should be a minimum of 15 feet. The applicant is proposing a 15-foot setback to the structure, but with the ability to have covered and uncovered patios project within 10 feet of the property line. So staff believes that the 15-foot setback to the patio and all structures would provide a sufficient buffer to promote the healthy growth of landscape materials, creating a natural buffer between the two potential adverse uses. Staff will also evaluate future industrial proposals and, if necessary, impose additional buffer requirements on those proposals to ensure a proper buffer between these two uses. And just to kind of give you an idea of it, you can see the stuff shown in the purple is our industrial zoning. The site's laid in on top with their conceptual plan. So you can see they're bounded by industry on the west and on the north. And they'll, if successful in council, they'll be on the east, we'll have the R2 zone product, single-family residential. So highlighted in yellow is really where we're concerned the most with. The next one is conformance to the city's general plan. Site is located within the community center general plan land use category. The land use category allows a density up to 20 dwelling units per acre. This proposal is requesting 11 dwelling units per acre. The PAD document addresses many of the general plan policies as it relates to infrastructure and mobility and spatial form and design. These standards will further be analyzed at the time of the site plan submittal. So staff finds that the request is in compliance with the general plan. The final one that we're going to cover tonight is the conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. This PAD is subject to the 2003 edition of the design standards for planned area developments. These standards cover various requirements such as open space allotment, front yard landscaping, housing product, lot sizes, setbacks, and due to the nature of this proposal, certain standards are difficult to achieve and not desired for the overall success and aesthetics of this type of product. The PAD design standard does allow the Planning and Zoning Commission and Council to depart from some of the requirements if it can be demonstrated that alternative standard proposed achieves the same goals of diversity, creativity, and sustainability sought for residential PADs. So the PAD design standards provide 4 potential exceptions. The applicant believes that the following 2 exceptions would apply to this product or this request. First one is that a proposed infill housing development on a parcel of land between 5 and 50 acres that is typically surrounded by established residential neighborhoods may qualify for some departure from the residential design standards. And then the second one is more applicable, is a development proposal so unique that strict conformance with all the requirements of the residential design standards would be counterproductive to achieving the diversity, creativity, and sustainability sought in the PAD. Council may alternatively approve the use of some unlisted requirements upon finding that the unlisted requirements will achieve the desired diversity objectives. So with that being said, we're going to go into the standards that they deviated from or not adhering to. So the first one is within Section 1A of the PAD Design Guidelines. It's mandatory PAD layout and design standards. It really covers the single-family lot and manufactured home space sizes. So it's no space or lot shall be under 6,000. Minimum width of the lot needs to be 55 feet. And then for every single-family lot or space less than 7,000 square feet in area, an equal number of lots or spaces need to be at least 8,000 square feet. The modification they're requesting is to accept the single-family rental build-to-rent communities from these standards. The justification they're providing is that the proposed build-to-rent project functions like a single-family neighborhood, but is a cluster-type housing product. And from a zoning perspective, it is a single ownership, one-lot parcel rather than homes located on individual lots, like traditional single-family residential. The staff's response to this is staff agrees that the unique nature of this project encourages a departure from the standard lot sizes. The next one that they will cover is Section 1A, mandatory PAD layout and design standards. It deals with the setbacks. The modification they're requesting is to accept single-family rental build-to-rent communities from these standards. Our typical standards are minimum 10-foot side yard setback shall be provided for every lot to allow access to the rear yard. The justification they're providing for this is that the proposed build-to-rent project functions like that single-family neighborhood, but is still a cluster-type housing product. And since it's on one lot, the single-family setbacks wouldn't apply to it. So staff agrees that this project unique characteristic does not lend itself to standard zone district setbacks. However, as discussed previously, staff believes that it is necessary to provide a 15-foot buffer or setback where the project abuts industrial zone property to ensure a better use-to-use compatibility. And you can see there's their development standards that are proposed within the PAD, and you can see the property line building setbacks, minimum 15-foot setback to structure. Covered patios may be located within the perimeter setback up to a minimum of 10 feet from the property line. So that's the one where we're in disagreement with the applicant. The next one we'll cover is Section 2A, mandatory PAD residential architectural standards for floor plans and elevations. Our typical single-family PADs, we ask for a minimum of five home floor plans, each with 3 elevations. We also ask for a minimum of 5 distinct home color schemes. The modification they're requesting is a minimum of 1 architectural theme with a minimum of 3 elevations and color schemes for each theme being required. Exterior colors and materials will be specific to each architectural theme that they provide. All homes will feature 4-sided architectural detailing. So the justification for this is a rental community. Diversity of floor plans, housing elevations, and color scheme by price range is not applicable. So the staff response is that staff agrees that due to the proximity of the units and the overall aesthetics of the project, a unified architectural standard will provide a more cohesive and attractive look for this type of project. The next one we'll talk about is number 4 in there. It's regarding patio covers. So in the PAD design standards, we require rear or side yard covered patios or covered courtyards on every home. Where possible, covered patio areas should be incorporated into the architecture of the home, and then patio covered columns and roof shall be constructed of the same material used on the remainder of the home. The modification that they're requesting here is to delete that standard. Each home will provide a private backyard in lieu of covered patio or courtyard. Staff agrees that the units shall not be required to provide covered patios. However, this stipulation does not mean that covered patios cannot be provided. In researching the product, many similar projects have provided some form of covered patio, so staff will further evaluate this at the time of the future submittal of the site plan. And then the next one we'll cover is Section 1B, additional requirements. So we provide 8 different options, and typically on single-family residential, the applicant's required to utilize at least 4 of the standards listed below. They include incorporate a variety of durable exterior materials and finishes, provide unique architectural styles for all homes within the parcel, provide significant architectural features such as covered front entries, covered front porches, bay windows, dormers on all homes, reduce the number of front-loaded garages, which wouldn't be applicable to this project, reduce the impact of two-story homes by limiting the second-story portion of the home, place additional emphasis on windows by providing a variety of window shapes and sizes and arrangements. Number 7 is to provide one elevation per project or product type that uses a flat roof, Santa Fe style or Pueblo architectural style, and then an applicant's choice. We did have some debate over this modification internally with staff. And you'll see another proposal for these type of uses where we might incorporate some of these. Since we didn't have a product submitted with this, we felt it gave them more opportunity to provide a unique product for this, and we didn't want to limit them too much on certain standards. We do think they'll be able to achieve a lot of these standards even if this is removed. So the modification they're requesting is the applicant to demonstrate one element of creativity and design innovation applicable to the entire development. So the justification is that these standards are intended for traditional single-family detached project and not applicable in the cluster-type development of the build-to-rent project. So staff does concur with the applicant's justification. Architectural standards and design, though, will be reviewed in conjunction with a future major site plan. So we'll be looking at all this criteria as they submit that next submittal as well. So in regards to notifications, staff met or exceeded all the city standards. We did not receive any inquiries on this particular request. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval of the zone change request from garden and light industrial to planned area development with the following condition: revise the PAD guide to clarify that no portions of the residential structure nor patios shall encroach into the 15-foot perimeter setback abutting industrial zoned or used areas.
Questions for staff?
Yes.
Member McBride.
Maybe I missed it someplace in there. Is there anything that precludes them from putting same houses, every one of them be the same house?
They would be potentially able to do that. Yes, I think we would review that during the time of major site plan submittal.
Okay.
And probably push back quite a bit, as we want this to be kind of a diverse, creative thing. And there might be some of the additional PAD design guidelines that would prohibit that type of submittal. But we'll certainly be taking a closer look at that at the time of major site plan submittal. And we do still have some criteria in that major site plan submittal that we could use to make sure that they're providing some creativity and some diversity within this project.
Okay, and one more thing on the 15-foot setback. Is that something that they would like to change just due to gaining more space to put more houses, or what's their idea behind that?
Yeah, I'll let the applicant touch on that. I can give you, my understanding is that they've done preliminary layouts of the site, and the site works better utilizing an additional 5 feet in that setback, and the layout works a little better for them, but I'll let them, when they come to the microphone, have the chance to speak on that.
Thank you.
Member Peters.
Mr. Horn, on this sheet here, it shows the different styles, Unit 1 and Unit 2. The homes in Unit 1 appear to be duplexes. Are they going to match the criteria that we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think that's part of the entire project submittal request. So they'll be providing duplexes, they'll be providing single family for rent, and the single family for rent will have an option of 1, 2, or 3 bedroom, and the duplexes will have a variety of bedrooms as well. But that's a pretty typical standard for these type of submittals is they do some duplexes mixed in with some
Okay. And
standalone.
they would have individual yards then for those duplexes?
The
or-
rear patio area or your back space would be individual, yes.
Okay, thank you.
These units are all rented. None of these aren't for sale.
Correct. It's a single
There is no
ownership.
100-year water supply for this facility.
Correct.
Okay. And you said in there that they can allow a two-story apartments. None of these are showing two-story. They're all going to remain one-story, correct?
They didn't show any in the conceptual stuff they provided. They do have a height standard of 28 feet, so there is a potential that they could do two-story units. Again, the conceptual site plan doesn't indicate that, but that is available to them if they can fit it and it can work.
So are they showing, are they going to have a clubhouse, pool, recreational area?
That's my understanding. Again, on the conceptual site plan, they don't indicate the clubhouse. They do show a park in the middle. But again, that's conceptual, and we'll look at that at the time of major site plan submittal. And we will be looking and calculating open space and usable open space, things like that, that are still requirements of the PAD design guideline that they're not adhering to.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff?
So this is,
Member Benedict?
this is 3 times the density? Yeah. Okay. But you did say, I did hear you say, it was gonna be my question, did I hear you say that the open space requirement is still there? They're not asking for a variance?
Right, the PAD requires 15% open space. I believe the site plan you're looking at shows a little bit more than that, but we'll still be looking at that at the next submittal.
Very good.
One more question.
Yeah, Member McBride.
Do we have anything similar to this in Casa Grande or any place around?
It's a really popular product now in the valley area. James and I did go and do a tour of multiple projects similar to this, and they're seeming to pop up quite a bit now. This is the first one that you guys are seeing in this city, but there's a couple others in the pipeline that you'll be seeing soon.
Thank you.
Couple of questions, if everybody else is done. Manufactured home, park model homes. No, no, not going in here, but in comparison to the rules that apply as far as setbacks, I know we have a varying degree of years when they've been built, but I know some park model complexes have very small setbacks. I think some of the newer ones that we've approved recently on Casa Grande Avenue, how does that compare? Are they held by those same setbacks?
No, so the R4 setbacks, again, this is a single site, so the property boundary is a little bit different, but same with the R4, where it could be a single site. They have 10-foot front setbacks, 10-foot rear setbacks, and 5-foot side setbacks from each unit.
Okay.
For each, also lot space, I should say. The minimum lot size of those is around 4,500. I didn't do a calculation of this, but it certainly, this would be a more dense product than that.
I guess the way I view it is it's somewhat similar, though, in my opinion.
It's almost double the density,
Okay.
maybe, a little less than that, but it's a significantly more dense product than that.
So, Mr. Chair, it probably is equivalent to a park model development, which
Yeah.
has lot size of about 3,500 square feet.
Okay.
That's about the right density and about the right setbacks. So if you think park model, Palm Creek maybe kind of thing.
Sure.
If you But our manufactured home parks, as Joe mentioned, are about half this density. They're closer to 4.5, 5.5 density.
Yeah, I may have been lumping those all together, so thank you for the clarification. But thinking of other projects that we have within the community that would kind of fit that similar standard, you can't control the park model. I know it's different because the owner may own the park model but rent the land, so I'm not going to dive into that. But every single person in that park model subdivision could buy the same park model, and we wouldn't be able to do anything about that, correct? And so I think if we look at this with a kind of a new outside of the box mind frame, there some potential opportunity. Any other questions for staff? No? All right. At this time, then, applicant and/or their representative like to speak to this agenda item?
Again, this is Cindy Paddock with Fugard Wilson, representing LKY Development, the property owner. Joe has done a good job of outlining the uniqueness of this product, which is the first time I understand it's being presented to the city of Casa Grande. It's a very popular new housing type elsewhere in the metropolitan area. There are a number of builders that are focusing in this area. It meets kind of current market demands where people are not necessarily interested in living in a multi-story, multi-family complex, but they are interested in a rental where, you know, the property manager maintains the exterior and there's a common amenity, a central amenity that was touched on. So it kind of is a hybrid between a single family detached neighborhood and an apartment complex. They're commonly referred to as horizontal apartments. There could be 1-story or 2-story. The ones that you typically see most frequently around the valley at the present time the majority of them are single-story, but this particular project does not have a builder engaged yet, so we don't, you know, the presentation of the building elevations that you see in the package are conceptual, depicting what could be developed here, but as Joe noted, the details would be reviewed closely at the major site plan approval when there's an actual developer, and they'd have to provide all the details, meet all those standards. Again, it is on a single lot. All the units are for rent. They are leased. There's a property manager on site. It's private streets. It's all maintained and manicured, just like any other apartment rental type complex. As Joe noted, staff has been great to work with on this. Again, it is a unique product, so we had lots of conversations about how to present this to the city within the confines of the existing code, and they did a great job in working with us. Again, the only point where we still have not come to agreement is the perimeter side setback on properties that are adjacent to industrial land, which would basically be the units on the west and on the north. It's not really an issue on the north with the proposed site plan because we're not close to it. But so Joe's pulled up on the screen two alternate plans that we have given him for tonight for discussion. So the plan that you see on the left-hand side of your screen, which indicates a 15-foot building setback, this layout, which is what the conceptual site plan is based upon, is the units back. You can see there's a central sidewalk that goes between the units, and the front doors are located off that central sidewalk. Each unit has a private backyard, and it's anticipated to have a covered patio of some portion in there. And the building itself meets the 15-foot perimeter setback, but the patio would encroach into it slightly, and we're proposing that it could encroach up to 10 feet. So it could encroach up to allowing a 10-foot setback from the perimeter property line instead of the 15-foot that staff is looking for. Again, we're talking about a difference of 5 feet, and it's for a covered patio, not for the main building structure. An alternate that's shown on the right-hand side of your screen would meet the standard of providing a 15-foot setback from the building to the perimeter property line. And the way this works is the building's front to the perimeter, so we have room to provide the necessary 15 feet. You can see that there's a sidewalk in the front of each unit. The units abut in the rear. And so we don't think this is attractive a layout from a livability standpoint. And we really believe that from a livability and a practical standpoint, the site plan that was submitted with the units that back to the perimeter, which is customary in most residential situations, is more desirable in this instance. And that's why we've asked to maintain the 15-foot buildings that allow patios, covered patios, to encroach into the setback, so that there would only be a 10-foot setback for them.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Chairman, most apartments in this town are, a lot of the people are a little bit lower income. So the average apartment rent here is probably from $800 to $1,100. Do you see these apartments a higher price range in the $1,200 to $1,500 range, or what's your thoughts on that for this town, if this town can afford that?
The nature of this request, again, we don't have a builder. There's not a builder engaged in this, so I couldn't speculate on what the rent might be. Obviously, a builder is going to be interested, whoever does construct this project will be interested in meeting the market demand, and they'll certainly study and see what the average rent is in the area. But I cannot speak today to what the rent might be on these units when they are constructed.
So at this time, you don't have a builder or speculation, you just want to get the zoning for it, correct?
Yes, we're sitting in the zoning. There's been lots of interest in this property, in this use, in this housing product type. Again, as Joe noted initially, this is the first time this project will have been presented to the city of Casa Grande, although there apparently are others behind us. So there's a lot of interest, but at the same time, folks would like to see that it's a little further along in the approval process. Larry, do you have anything to add? Again, Larry Yancey, a property owner, is here to answer questions as well.
Yeah, the market is clearly there. The builders want to know the product is doable and you can get it done. And me as a property owner want to know that also. I don't think we'll have any problem. I've had multiple offers already, actually. My only comment on the 10-foot and the 15-foot is I just don't think it's good planning to put the front doors in the industrial, which we could solve the 15-foot problem by doing that. But I think it's much more desirable to have the front doors like we presented it, and that if there's actual encroachment on the 5 feet, it really, in my mind, isn't going to make a difference. It's a much better approach.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? No?
I just got one curiosity thing.
Yeah.
Is this a product that, I know you're going to have a builder build it, is it something that's going to be held onto by the owner, or is it going to be the builder who's going to be in control of this after it's finished? I'm just curious.
I'll answer that. Typically, whoever builds them owns them these days. These are only being sold, quite honestly, when somebody gets a package of several of them together and then sells a big package. They're an awfully popular investment out there right now. And our target market is obviously the employees at Lucid.
So it would remain as one property, though, throughout, after it's all over with. Every unit that's built in here is going to be owned by one person or one company.
That's correct, because these are not being individualized in lots.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for staff, which would be, at this moment in time, because we have a conceptual but not a actual, can we push, like, I mean, if I had, hey, this is what we want to build, and then having the conversation about the 10-foot or 15-foot, or do you need to do that now because it's the PAD guidelines? Or what, give me some directions on that.
So, I think you could structure this in a way you could kick the can down the road. But if you put, staff would not be in as strong of position to review a project and for sort of insist on that there be a 15-foot buffer with no encroachments without this standard, right? So, I mean, you could say, up to a 10-foot, a 5-foot encroachment. Maybe that would be a way you could structure the approval. The setback could be 15 with up to a 5-foot encroachment by the patio. And then we could see what comes out at the major site plan. Actually, just as I was sitting here this evening looking at this alternative, first off, I got to totally agree with Mr. Yount that facing these buildings towards the industrial zone is a bad decision, a bad idea, right? You don't want somebody walking out their front door and looking at an industrial building. So the design on the right is not a good solution. But the design on the left actually could be modified to allow those units that kind of back up to the parking lot. They have a 12-foot setback from the parking lot. You could actually shift those over about 5 feet and then create like a little 4-foot wall around that patio to create a little, some privacy on that patio where that 5-foot setback from the parking lot you'd still have some privacy. So you could actually shift those units, I think, towards the parking lot, dress them up a little bit with some privacy fencing on the back patio and get the 15-foot setback from the back patio adjacent to the industrial. So I think there are other design alternatives that can work. So, either way, staff would feel comfortable in saying, that it's a 15-foot setback with up to a maximum 5-foot encroachment to be determined at the time of major site plan. We would be okay with that if that's what the commission wants to do.
And that's how their PAD is currently structured. So, they're straight from their PAD is a minimum 15-foot setback to structure. Covered patios may be located within the perimeter setback up to a minimum of 10 feet from the property line. So that's how it's currently kind of stipulated in their document.
So we're not, we're just setting the zoning up, but the zoning has to have this requirements, this 10 or 15 feet, or we can just chase that down the road when they come back. We're just gonna, this motion, if we make our motion just to approve the zoning change, that zoning change will have nothing to say with the setback and the 15 feet or whatever. You can come back later for that for us?
So the PAD design standards already create some standard setbacks for single family. So what they're asking is throw those out, don't make us comply with the normal setbacks, allow us to use these alternative setbacks. So yes, there would be a set of alternative setbacks approved with this rezoning.
Which I think makes sense because it's not, I mean, yes, it's single-family rentals, but it's not a single-family product. It's not a single-family residential home. And so then you would argue, well, is it necessary to hold them to that same standard?
And staff agrees with that, totally. We just think we need some space to create
Yeah.
compatibility between these units and the adjacent
So
industrial.
then the question is, if it was adjacent to business, an office, rather than industrial, does that change
Possibly, right? Possibly, yes. It's a use-to-use compatibility issue.
Right.
So potentially,
Right.
yes.
Because you have obviously all right.
And I brought up the PAD review criteria because it's very similar to our major site plan review criteria. So we will be looking at that compatibility. You can see the first one's the relation to ship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. So this is one of the things we consider when we do review that major site plan. So we'll look at that. We look at screening, we look at setbacks on that major site plan. And without having a true builder, their layout may potentially change. The model, the way the sizes of the units may be different, may alter and make it easier to fit and keep that buffer in there. And you know, it's a 5-foot difference between what we think's a good buffer zone where we can put in a decent landscape that will thrive and work to buffer that potential industrial impact on the site.
But we're also not changing anything in regards to the structure itself. So if they walked out their front door, or their, back door in this case, and they had no patio cover, they're gonna see the exact same thing if they had a patio cover.
Well,
Based on their criteria, because the wall, the back wall of the property, that's the structure that's being built, is at the 15 feet. And so if they had no back patios on anything that was on the west wall, they would still meet the criteria.
They would, but you have to keep in mind what staff is going to require in that buffer, which is a lot of planting of landscaping, a lot of trees, to create a visual buffer between those back patios and those big industrial buildings to the west.
They do have
That's why we want the 15 feet, so we can plant trees that can really thrive.
True. I'm just like if we have housing products where the back patio is built into the house layout, right? Where it's almost recessed into the property. You would never know the difference here. They would still be able to do a recessed patio.
Yes, absolutely.
You're just saying they can't add a patio closer to the wall, but my argument would be by adding the patio closer to the wall, you've effectively not really changed the building itself and its properties to the boundary. So it makes sense that I guess ultimately it makes sense what they're requesting to me. Makes sense now, as I've walked through that in my head. All right. Any other questions? Sorry.
This also goes to the city council, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so what conceptually, to me, the concern that I think that was expressed was to be sure that you could get the greenery as that block to thrive. And that, you know, putting those patios even closer is gonna hamper that. And I think, to me, the quality of living is, those are important to the quality of the living for those folks that are there. And I think we've moved a long ways on a whole lot of things to accommodate them. I think that outside rim, right, Joe, it's just the outside rim that we're talking about. I just don't see it as
When this is all conceptual, actually.
Yeah,
and
that's
so-
the hardest part of it.
And,
is
well,
we're-
and
we're-
so
we're
if we,
debating
if we
conceptual.
put a certain stipulation on it, they may change the design of what their concept is to accommodate what it is that we're really asking for and what we're trying to get out of it. And so now would be the time to do it, it seems, for the
Yeah.
15 feet. Because if we wait to kick the can down the road too far, they're gonna try to design everything out
I agree.
at 10 feet. So
100%.
we need to act on it right now.
Yeah. No, when you use the phrase "kick the can down the road,"
Yeah.
it made sense to me that there's no sense in kicking it down the road. But at this point in time, because we haven't done this yet, I probably should at least open it up for public comment, just in case there's anybody from the public that would like to speak to this agenda item. We could get their input. Please state your name and address for the record.
Is, again?
I think they're gonna have you repeat that word for word, because, no, I'm just kidding.
Maybe the batteries are dead.
Nice.
Yeah, here, switch it out with my mic.
Some technical difficulties,
Going to give him some time back.
right? Well, yeah, I won't hold you to the timer.
All right, that was a rehearsal.
There we go.
There you go.
All right, my name is Tom Paul. I'm staying at the Casa Grande RV Resort area, and upon looking at it and hearing the concerns, it appeared from the conceptual drawing, though they don't have a builder specifically yet, that the 18-foot as depicted would allow for the objectives to be met. Thank you.
Thank you. You're trying to replace those batteries? Look at that.
I'm gonna do it all,
Look at that, man. I tell you what, I'm impressed. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak to this agenda item?
Good evening, Commissioners. John McGuire, 1748 North St. Francis Place. I'm going to stick to the more global things, let you guys battle out this 10 to 15 foot issue. I will say just on that I can already foresee when we do get some sort of use next door to this, the industrial or commercial project that wants to go in there is going to be fighting back saying, we don't want to add another 5 feet of setback to our project as we've had in other areas over on Cottonwood and Thornton and things like that. But in general, I'm ready for these projects to start getting here. As the staff said, there's several of them in the pipeline now. They're really popular up in the valley. And it's just really comes down to whether we as a city want to start approving upward vertical apartment complexes or some of these, which people seem to want, even if there is a little bit of a price addition to them, because they feel a little bit more homey, for lack of a better word. So I'm excited that Mr. Yountz has brought this project to us. It fits well next to his other project next door. It solves some of the certificate of assured water problems that we have on a lot of these lots that need to be allowed for some sort of housing use. And I hope that you move to approve this forward to City Council. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody come forward. Anybody online? Seeing nobody online, I will close the public portion. Bring the conversation back to the commission.
I'd like to make a check for a clarification on it.
Please.
The way it's written right now is for the 15-foot with the patio not being within or at 15 feet, correct? Is that the way this is written?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I think in regards to one of our citizens' comments, this doesn't get kicked over to the neighbors, no matter what's decided, right? Whether it's a 15-foot or a 10-foot, it's not on the neighboring property to make the additional adjustment. So I'll clarify that. That's not fair to them, and not having developed their property that they would have to abide by an additional 5 feet for no reason. But
With that in mind, I'd like to make a motion, sir.
you have every right to.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to forward to council the approval of the zone change request DSA 20-00118 from garden and light industry to planned area development with the listed conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, will you please call the roll?
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes,
Chairman Miller.
Try not to speak before my votes very often, but I will say I'm very excited to see a project like this moving forward. I would like to, I'm going to vote yes, but I would like us to consider to move forward because it's budding I-1. That is my frustration with the setback, but I would like our city to continue to look at additional opportunities moving forward for these types of projects, depending on where they're located for easing additional setbacks. So yes. All right. Next agenda item, public hearing and consideration of request by Cypress Civil and DCM Development LLC for the following land use application, major site plan, DSA 20-00117, and comprehensive sign plan, DSA 20-00208.
Good evening, Chairman Miller, members of the commission. As you introduce this item, this is a request for the construction of a Dollar General retail store. The proposed location is west of the northwest corner of Courtson Road and Peart Road, located within the Bella Vista Planned Area Development Zone District. You see the Bella Vista PAD on the map on the right. It's largely a residential PAD with single-family residential land use on the northern portion, multifamily towards the south, and there's about a 4.5-acre area located at the corner of Peart and Courtson designated for commercial uses. The proposed Dollar General would be roughly utilizing 1/2 of the commercial area site, leaving another opportunity for commercial development at the hard corner. The proposal is for a 9,023 square foot Dollar General retail store. It would be sitting on 1.61 acres. 33 parking spaces are proposed. The two requests in front of you this evening are for a major site plan, which would be evaluated to ensure conformance with the Bella Vista PAD zoning, as well as other applicable city code requirements. And then the second request is to consider approval for the comprehensive sign plan associated with signage for the commercial area of Bella Vista. This just shows you an excerpt of the elevations that are proposed and an excerpt of the site plan. I will say that staff did work with the applicant to ensure quality elevations be provided. As I will note that they are providing four-sided architecture with a combination of stucco and then stone located towards the bottom on all four elevations and multiple color tones. When reviewing the criteria for major site plans, the site plan must address all of this criteria in front of you. And the staff report goes into how it meets all of this criteria in greater detail, but I'm going to just focus on the four highlighted items. The first criteria I want to talk about is the conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. As I mentioned, this is located within a planned area development zone district, and it, by and large, imparts B2 development standards. And so staff did ensure that those setbacks and heights were being maintained, and they are. The second criteria is the adequacy of the plan with respect to land use. So I do want to point out that proposed to the north and to the west of the site is multifamily. They are providing a low screen wall, about 3 feet in height, along the front of the site to screen the view of the parking area from Courtson. However, when looking at Section 1752-270 of the city code, it mentions that all business development situated on a parcel which abuts a residential zone shall be screened by an approved wall or fence not less than 6 feet in height. And so one of the technical corrections that staff is making is that the site plan be modified to reflect the placement of a 6-foot high wall at the boundary between this commercial location and the multifamily to the north and to the west. The other criteria that I want to discuss is pedestrian and vehicular ingress and egress. They are providing a public sidewalk. It's part of their required half-street improvements necessary to Courtson Road. So there will be a public sidewalk constructed paralleling the site for that stretch of the site that's parallel to Courtson. Also, part of the public improvement efforts will require right-of-way dedication so that the half-street width of 70 feet is provided to meet the major arterial roadway criteria for Courtson Road. And they are reflecting that future property line on their site plan. They are also providing cross-access to the future commercial site to the east. I do want to note that as part of that cross-access, they're also proposing a sidewalk in front of their store that will extend near the commercial site. So there will also be a pedestrian connection internally in addition to whatever public sidewalk gets constructed along Courtson. One of the conditions of approval, however, is that this cross-access easement will have to be recorded and its reception information will have to be provided on the site development permit so that we can ensure that this is achieved. The other criteria that I want to talk about is signage and screening. So the ordinance that approved the Bella Vista planned area development consisted of 2 conditions of approval or conditions of record that impact signage. The first is that the commercial area of the PAD is limited to 1 detached sign, and this sign is to be monument style, no taller than 8 feet in height. So at the time of the major site plan, we needed to work with the applicant and ensure that the applicant was working with the owner of the site to the east, because the placement of the sign was critical for both this use and whatever proposed use is to occur to the east, because the PAD requires them or limits them to only 1 detached sign for the commercial area. The other condition of record associated with the zoning was that at the time of the first major site plan approval, a comprehensive sign plan is necessary for the commercial area of the Bella Vista PAD. So one of the conditions of approval associated with the major site plan is that there's to be a sign easement established and referenced on the site development permit. This will allow the future development to utilize the sign. I will say that the owner of that parcel did provide authorization for this request, and they were, I'm understanding, and the applicant can speak to this to confirm, but I'm understanding that the owner of that undeveloped parcel is the seller to this property, so they are in agreement. So staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the major site plan with the following technical modification and conditions that I've covered in the staff report and presentation. Mainly the technical modification is to provide that wall dividing their site from the multifamily area. And then the conditions is basically to provide recorded easement information and to require that a map of dedication for that Courtson Road right-of-way will occur to meet the 70-foot half-street standard. And the applicant is aware of all of these. The other application being requested this evening is the comprehensive sign plan. So what the comprehensive sign plan covers is the details and specifics of the monument sign, and it is designed to accommodate multiple tenants. As I mentioned previously, there will have to be a sign easement established so that the undeveloped portion of the commercial area can utilize it. One of the other aspects of the comprehensive sign plan is not just details regarding the detached signage, but what rules are being established for the wall signage, not only this building, but the future building or buildings on the undeveloped portion of the site. So Dollar General has provided its signage detail as it's known for their building. And they also are setting forth criteria for wall signage as it would apply to the future commercial development. And basically, all the commercial area will be limited to 1.5 square feet of wall signage per building elevation that fronts on a public road. In addition, they're allowed up to 25% of their window area to be signage, and that would not count towards that wall signage limitation. When comparing the comprehensive sign plan to the most comparable zone district that does have known signage rules for it, the B2 zone, the Bella Vista sign plan is actually more restrictive insofar as if this were zoned B2, it would allow a sign of 30 feet. Of course, this ordinance associated with Bella Vista limits the maximum detached sign height to 8. But even within that, they're proposing basically 47.25 square foot per sign face monument sign, whereas ordinarily you can have a sign up to 200 square feet in size for a detached per the B2 sign rules. So this is a lot more conservative than what we would get if it were traditionally zoned. And then their wall signage is also more restrictive in that the B2 code allows up to 2 square feet of sign area per linear foot of building elevation on an elevation fronting a public road. And they're imposing a 1.5 square foot signage area rule. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve the comprehensive sign plan, DSA 20-00208. Regarding public notification, both the city's and the applicant's effort met or exceeded that which is required by code. There were no comments provided, however, as a result of those public notification efforts. So in summary, staff is making a recommendation that Planning Commission approve the major site plan subject to the technical modification and the conditions discussed. And we're also recommending that Planning Commission approve the comprehensive sign plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Yeah. Cortson Road, this all has to do with the road. Cortson Road is going to be a corridor eventually for 6 lane, actually 7 lanes. 70 feet isn't wide enough. Now, the reason I know that is because the transmission lines on the other side of the freeway have all been moved to handle a 7-lane road, which Cortson Road comes all the way over on this side, and that's going to be a 7-lane road with the intersection. 70 feet will not handle a 7-lane road. So at this point, that should be widened even more because that'll eventually be a 7-lane road. And that was one of the things that the city of Casa Grande told us, because we own most of the property on the east side of the road that's in the deal, that was going to be a 7-lane road in the interchange. And when they put the transmission lines in from E2, they were all built based on the road being 7-lane. And I've been told many a times by the city, when we met with the mayor and the city managers, that it's going to be a 7-lane road. Cortson Road will be a main corridor. So at this point, I wouldn't approve that unless we get approval that that's not going to be a 7-lane road, because you would be tearing into a building.
Commissioner Dugan, 70 feet is for half of the road.
Only half of it.
It's
then.
140 feet total right away.
Yeah, okay, you gotta, okay.
Yeah, we have a
Sam, I
cost.
thought you were talking the whole width.
No, developers are required to dedicate right away and build half-street improvements. That we already have it on the south half. Or where we don't have it on the south half, we have it along G Diamond where it's been platted, but for that vacant corner, when that goes, we'll get the other 70 feet there as well.
You're not gonna require them to widen the road in front of the area?
So, that's a good question. So you can see here, as on James's graphic, it's 70 feet half-street, and he's shown some half-street improvements, including a sidewalk. You know, it's difficult to build arterials in short increments like this. I don't know what the width of this lot is, a couple hundred feet, James?
It's almost 200 feet.
200 feet. It's kind of hard to build a 200-foot segment of the road because then you got to transition, you got to taper back to the existing pavement. Maybe our traffic engineer might be on the Zoom, and maybe he can tell us what he's thinking here, whether or not we're just going to take like a financial contribution so we can build it when the property maybe to the east of this, like we get it built all the way to the intersection rather, of Peart, or whether or not he's thinking we're gonna require them to build this short segment. So Dwayne, can you address that? Is Dwayne on the Zoom there, Joe?
He stepped away for a moment.
So, so the people that own the property for the dollar store, the landowner also owns the other piece next to it, correct?
Correct.
So wouldn't he have to, if he wanted to do this, put the whole, from all the way from Pert all the way to put the whole corner in?
You know, that would be logical. Clearly, the lot to the east of this dollar store, between the dollar store and Peart, is owned by the same property owner. When that parcel goes to develop, it would have the same obligation. It's more logical to build all the way from Peart all the way across to the dollar store, because like I mentioned, it's very hard to do these small increments. And what you actually have to do is you have to do these transition lanes, you have to build more than this 200 foot of frontage, because you have to transition from 2 lanes to 4, then back to 1 to 2, back to 1, like a scallop street, very difficult to do in short increments. I suspect our traffic engineers would require something different here. But Dwayne, are you with us yet? Well, I'm afraid we can't get
Yeah,
in.
I'm here. You can't hear me?
Oh, there we go.
we go.
I can
now
hear
we
you
can.
now, Dwayne, thank you.
Isn't there any, I thought there was requirements when they put buildings in, you require a lot of people, just like anybody, you gotta add extra lanes and so forth. Isn't there a requirement the city makes the people that own the property to widen the street as
During-
needed right now?
In their section, though. Like they.
Yeah.
the property
Across-
owner doesn't
But
have to
it's the
widen
same
whole
property
thing.
owner. It's the
Yeah, but
same-
if it's only the property section that's being developed. You can't force somebody to develop the road on a property that's not being developed, which is the reason why the section between Pert and this property line isn't currently included.
Is that the rules?
Those are the rules, yes. But let's let our traffic engineer tell us what he's thinking.
Okay.
So we have a lot of proposed 6-lane roadways around town. And usually what we do is just have them build 4-lane part of it versus all 6 lanes. And then we know sometime in the future, we would come back in and build that 6-lane on our dollar. Now, in this case, I don't think we should make them build this little short segment. We should just have them put up the amount of funds that would cover us coming back and building it sometime in the future. Does that answer your question?
So the city of Casa Grande will then pay for it?
No, this applicant.
Well, you're gonna make them, how can you make
We're
them?
gonna escrow funds. We're gonna have them pay their pro rata share.
Oh, okay.
We'll have it priced out. They'll pay us, we'll escrow it, we'll put it in the project fund when it gets built.
Got it.
It's not that unusual. We've done that other times around town.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff?
Yes, this is Denise Goldman from Lechner Construction.
Hang on.
Is that the applicant?
Yo, give me one. Yeah, hang on. Applicant? That's you?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, let's just open it up to the applicant. Let's let the applicant come on forward. Talk to us.
So
Thank-
I just wanted to explain about what happens here. Yes, there is one owner for this lot at this time, for this lot and the lot next door, but it is in the process of, at closing, that we are purchasing just this lot from the owner. So it will not be, he will not be the owner of this lot anymore. So, we actually go in and we actually build these stores and then we lease them out to Dollar General. So our construction firm will actually own this property, at the time of closing.
Thank
So
you.
just so you're
Yep.
aware of how that really works there.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? None?
None.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us this evening, and thank you for the clarification on that. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
At this time, then, I will go my natural progression and open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Right.
Evening again, Commissioners. John McGuire, 1748 North St. Francis. Two quick things. I can't tell, there will be a right turn lane, Jim, into this though, or so we're not blocking Courtson at all when they're turning in from westbound. There's gonna be no mitigation at this point on that until we do the road widening. I want to make you answer, that's just a concern I wanted to say, but I'm trying to follow Chairman's newer rules lately.
Thank you.
And the second thing is, similarly, I don't know whether the construction company will be able to answer this tonight. I was truly hoping this was going to be one of the new style Dollar General pop shelf stores. Everything I've read online in the news is that the 9,000 square foot size is the new type of store, a little bit higher end. And a lot of public concern with the fact that we're going to have yet another regular Dollar General in town. And I mean, I'm all for the owner's rights to build what they want. I live in this neighborhood. I'm really excited about finally getting some projects in the north end of a commercial nature, but I don't know if they're able to tell. When I saw the signage come out, I was a little disappointed that it was the regular Dollar General signs. So if they're able to answer that, that would be great. Otherwise, I still think we should support it, again, because we need to get some stuff going on that north side of town. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd be more than happy to answer that. Yes, this is a new style store. This is the fifth in the last 2 years that we have built. This is based upon Dollar General going to the new home goods type store. They have more coolers in them for more food and issues like that. So it is all the new style. This is totally LED. It's totally up to par fashion. 3 checkouts. It's all the really nice, beautiful store. So yes, it is not your old style that you walk into in some of the older ones.
I really wish that you as the applicant could have been here to see his celebration dance when you said it was the new one. I just want you to know that.
It is. They are beautiful. They are beautiful stores. We've just now finished. We're starting our third one in Cochise County, and they are beautiful stores when they're finished. They are just so fantastic. They're nice part of the neighborhood now.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the second part of that, and you may be able to help us, it looks like based on the image on the screen that we currently have the widened road with just striped and not an actual turn lane designated off of Courtson. Is that correct?
Well, to my understanding, the site plan that I have, it does show approved asphalt laid out there in our civil drawings, but it's just in front of the store,
Right.
that will provide our driveway and our turn lane there.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not currently designed as a designated turn lane. But it is designed to
Right,
be
it's
built
not-
out. Perfect. Well,
Yes.
the asphalt's built, the street widening. I'm getting looks from our chairman, or our director, sorry.
So the site plan the site plan you see in front of you on the screen proposes to build an additional lane for Courtson. That's a through lane. That's what you're looking at, not a turn lane.
Right.
But we know we can't do that because we can't transition back to the single lane. So we're probably not going to build that. Now, whether or not we're going to have, whether or not we require any kind of a turn lane out of the through lane, I think we're going to have to ask our traffic engineer to look at the traffic impact analysis and decide if he needs one or not. There's plenty of right of way, but I don't know if he's going to, if he's going to require that to be built or not.
Gotcha. I thought they were building this and we were just taking money for the third lane. But you're saying we might just take money for both lanes, the second and the third.
So what they're showing here is their additional lane.
Yep.
That's what they're showing.
I'm following you.
Yeah.
I'm tracking where you're going there. All right. Anybody else? Because I have not actually closed the public portion yet. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Or anybody online? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Members of the commission? Questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, just
Member
one question for the applicant, if she's still available.
Okay.
I don't know if your company owns the other Dollar Generals in town, and if so, is there any plan to close those and have vacant stores?
Okay, so no, we don't own any other ones up there. What normally happens with this, so you're kind of aware of the process here, is we actually will purchase this property from the owner, we'll split the lot, and we build the Dollar General, then we lease the building inside for merchandise to them, while the building and property is usually sold to an individual or a company. They're individually held. So we don't hold on to them. There's a line of people to pick these stores up. So we actually, once we turn the store over in 5 months, we actually are usually closing to the new buyer. So no, we don't have any ownership of any of the stores except during construction.
So you build it, get a long-term lease, and then sell it as a leased property?
That is correct.
What is the, usually the range of a lease, 15 years, 10 years on these?
It's a 15-year lease.
Any other questions? All right.
Okay, you want me to do it, huh?
I don't care who
Okay,
does
Mr.
it. It's,
Chair, I'd
I'm
like
just
to make
gonna
a
wait.
motion, please.
All right.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve major site plan DSA 20-00117 with the listed technical modifications and conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make another motion, please. I'd like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive sign plan DSA 20-00208.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes. Great. Thank you. Applicant, thank you for being here. Congratulations on the approval. Always excited for new development
Thank
in the
you.
community. All right.
Thank you.
Next agenda item, public hearing and consideration request by Lennar to allow housing product DSA 1-00007.
So McCartney Ranch was the topic of a request that came forward to you a few months ago, as Kay Havnanian also had received design review approval for lots that it purchased within this neighborhood. Now Lennar, who would be a new builder entering into the Casa Grande market, has acquired the remaining vacant lots within this neighborhood. Specifically, those lots that are west of Brown Avenue. There's 115 vacant lots within this area. Kay Havnanian had received design review approval for the vacant lots east of Brown Avenue, between Treckle and Brown. So the request in front of you this evening is for housing product, otherwise known as design review. And the request is for 6 home plans, each with 3 elevation styles. 21 color schemes have been provided. The proposed homes range from 1,400 square feet to just over 2,200 square feet. All 6 floor plans are single story, but they do vary from 35 feet in width, 40 feet in width, and 55 feet in width, one including an RV garage. Here's a sampling of the 3 elevation styles proposed by Lennar. There's the Spanish elevation in the left column, Ranch Hacienda in the middle column, and Craftsman in the far right column. Now, McCartney Ranch is subject to the April 1999 version of the residential design standards for planned area developments. That document is what sets forth the review criteria by which the home builder must follow in order for Planning Commission to consider approval. Here's an example of previous builders' homes approved in the neighborhood. Some of the previous builders were Nicholas Homes and Capital Pacific. What the April 1999 version of the residential design standards impose is specifics with regard to elevations and roof styles. It requires there to be a minimum of 4 floor plans and 3 elevations and color schemes. Lennar is exceeding that by providing 6 floor plans with 3 elevations and 21 color schemes. And then there's some other criteria that is really hard for us to ensure being met until the time of plot plan submittal, such as there shall not be any more than 2 consecutive similar front home elevations, and that there can't be any more than 3 consecutive rear elevations on homes backing onto Brown. So at the time of plot plan submittal, we would require that Lennar provide some detail indicating what the adjacent home elevation is, if known, et cetera, and color scheme, et cetera, so that we can ensure that these criteria are all met. There's also some additional requirements for PAD residential architecture in which they have to meet 4 out of the 6 stated. And the staff report covers the 4 that they are meeting out of the 6. They are providing a variety of durable exterior materials, such as concrete roof tiles that vary depending on the color scheme. They're providing a mixture of different garage door styles and coach lights. And they're providing 2 front yard landscape packages per plan. Most of the homes provide living area either forward of the garage. There's one plan where the garage is just slightly in front. There's one plan where the garage does fully project out from the house. That's not necessarily prohibited per these design standards, this version of the design standards, but the way Lennar is contending with that floor plan is they're providing a low screen wall to provide basically a little walled courtyard effect next to the garage to sort of help sharpen the image of the view of the home from the street. There is one concern, and it was brought up to the applicant, was that plan number 4083 provides a generational suite. It's called their next gen suite, which is probably the idea behind it is to provide accommodations for in-laws, etc. However, looking at the floor plans, they were indicating 2 kitchens. So this is within a single-family residential zone district, and really how we define the single-family residential use is by having a house providing only 1 kitchen. So as a condition of approval, this plan number, the generational suite cannot include kitchen facilities so that the home maintains 1 kitchen, and access to the suite must be maintained within the interior of the home. So in summary, there's 3 recommended conditions of approval. I do want to articulate for the minutes that condition number 1 has been slightly modified from the staff report, but it's presented correctly that plan number 4083, the generational suite cannot include kitchen facilities so that the home maintains 1 kitchen. Access to the suite must be maintained within the interior of the home. The second condition is that it remains the same as what the staff report indicates, is that the landscaping to be installed by the builder and maintained by homeowner per the provided landscape packages shall be in place within 30 days of the certificate of occupancy for the home. And then the plot plan submittal is to list certain details to ensure that the April 1999 PAD standards are met. Regarding the public notification and comment, it met and exceeded that which is required by code. I did receive several inquiries. One person who had phoned in lived in the neighborhood and wasn't necessarily opposed to the proposal, but they did express disappointment to see the smaller homes compared to the larger homes that had been previously built within that community. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve the housing product for McCartney Ranch parcels 3 and 4 for Lennar, subject to the conditions discussed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
One question, the second kitchen, so basically what specifies a kitchen? So if the guy in that area just wanted to put a refrigerator, a microwave, and a dishwasher, that is not classified as a kitchen?
Commissioner Dugan, I would consider that more like a wet bar, which you would commonly see in a single-family home. You know,
Okay.
where you there may be a wing of the house that has a sink and a microwave.
You can't put so basically the stove and oven is classified as a kitchen, that's it?
Right.
Correct, okay.
Yeah, Member Benedict.
Help me understand why we don't want the second kitchen. I must have missed something.
Commissioner Benedict, it comes down to the fact that the zoning of this PAD is limited to single-family residential uses in this area. So the way we define single-family residential dwellings is really comes down to where the members of the household go to break bread, which is having 1 kitchen unit. The presence of 2 what appears to be full-size kitchens would lend itself to the potential for it to being more like a duplex use, which isn't allowed in that zoning.
Following up on that, you know, the new trend is for, especially up in the valley, is the older generation taking care of their parents actually built on a secondary with kitchens. So is it something the city needs to look at and adopt that plan, because that is getting to be a pretty popular use?
This would have more to do with the existing restriction in the subdivision though, right? Another subdivision coming forward if they wanted to change those. Or is it?
So the zoning of this property is PAD, single-family PAD for single-family homes. So if we, because theoretically, this could be 2 dwelling units in this house, right? And yes, it could be a family member today, or it could be somebody else tomorrow.
My
right?
buddy paying me
Right?
rent.
Yeah.
Because we really can't control who actually is occupying those spaces. Now, but to your point, Commissioner Dugan, is yes, it is something we're going to be looking at to amend our code to accommodate what we call accessory dwelling units, which is accommodating a smaller dwelling unit on a single-family home lot as either like a permitted use within some standards or a conditional use. So yes, it is something we're looking at closely.
Thank you.
And if I remember right, there was actually Colorado Loop, Z-Lots had mother-in-law quarters, or what they called mother-in-law quarters, I think at the time, or some variant of that name. They had it might have had a sink and an under-the-counter fridge in most of those suites with a separate access. Or, anyways, so yeah, it's kind of been done, but it has to be modified from the existing plan.
My next door neighbor's house is designed that way.
Yeah.
Has a separate entrance right next to me to the east. And it's got it doesn't have a full kitchen, it has.
It's like a
partial
kitchenette,
type-
but.
Yeah, kitchenette thing, it doesn't have a stove or
Right.
anything in it.
I assume most of them are built that way. There's not a full kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you. At this time, applicant and/or their representative like to speak to this agenda item. Mr. Freeman, you're very faint in the background. You there?
Yes, I'm here. Let me see if I
Can barely hear you.
Can't hear him at all.
Like, not even discernible sound, but I do know that you're there.
I apologize. This technology, is this any better?
That's getting better.
Yeah, a lot better.
It's getting better, yeah.
All right, we'll keep cranking it up.
There you go.
Sounds good.
All right, I apologize for that. I appreciate you taking our project and your time tonight. And yes, the Next Gen Suite is a product that has been very well received throughout the rest of the valley, and we're very eager to bring it down to Casa Grande. Certain municipalities have had issues with the full kitchen. However, we have gotten amendments to allow for it. So Phoenix, Mesa, Buckeye, Surprise, Gilbert, all the major municipalities do allow for us to add a range now at this point. And we have found a significant need in people looking for homes these days who are having to take care of their elderly parents to have those facilities. So it is a product that's well received by the public, and we're very eager to get it down here at Casa Grande as well.
Well, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Do you plan to build a modify facility for elderly parents that leaves the stove out? Down here?
If that's what's required of us, then we could make modifications to the plan to pull out the stove, and that would eliminate the kitchen requirement. So that is a possibility. Obviously, we would love to keep it in, but if it's against the zoning, then we would have to remove that particular feature.
This question is going to be for staff. They would have the ability to request an amendment to that? Or a
Yes,
variance?
Mr. Chair, I was actually just thinking about that same thing. Since they own 115 lots, they could actually propose a PAD amendment so that on their 115 lots, that a multi-generational unit was allowed on either as a permitted or conditional use, but that would be a PAD amendment So what we could do is leave the condition like it is today, proving this, and then they could come back with a PAD amendment to allow multi-generational homes on any one of their 115 lots. So the commission could certainly entertain that at a future time.
So just to clarify, we could approve their housing products, and they would just know they're not allowed to build one of them until they got that amendment done.
Right, until the amendment's done, they could not build the unit as designed
48
this
or
evening.
whatever it was.
Right.
Would that be only for the pad, only their houses, not the other house on the pad?
Yeah, because yes, because PAD amendments can only be requested by the property owners or the city. But as the property owner of 115, they could apply for it. If it was for their whole PAD, really only the city could be the applicant. And frankly, that might open a can of worms as we, talk to all those property owners.
Okay.
Question for the staff too yet.
I like where we're headed with this.
Has there been any other home builders that wanted to do that in the past years too?
Yes. Yes, but we've modified them all to remove either the exterior entrances to these secondary units and/or the kitchens.
I'm going to take my time here, Benedict.
Yeah, just for me.
Any other questions for staff or applicant? I guess we still have them available. All right. At this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Yes, I would like to. Please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
I'm Gary Rasmussen. I live at 2506 North Morrison Avenue, which is right across the street from the proposed housing project. Most of the existing homes in McCartney Ranch, or at least on Morrison Avenue, where a good number of these lots are between 2,500 and 3,000 square feet. Most of the houses that are being proposed here are a good deal smaller than that. 1,400 is the smallest one. The concern of myself, and we had several other people here, but they couldn't last out the other items on the agenda. But the question is, how do you assure that you aren't going to have a whole line of 1,400 square foot houses across the street from or next to the existing homes, which are a good deal bigger? And of course, the property values are a major concern to the existing owners. Existing owners will take a significant hit in their property values when the completion of this project is done. Now, I'm not opposing the project because, quite frankly, I would rather see houses in there rather than vacant lots, even though I hit golf balls on the vacant lots right now. But if there doesn't seem to be any restriction on how many of these 6 different types of housings are going to be. Most of the time, you build one of each, and then however the demand comes in, they go out and pick up the lots, and there they are. So you have a possibility without these restrictions of having 100, almost 100, I guess 98 very small houses put into the community. If there were some sort of way to assure that there's 17 of each, no problem. But I don't see that, I don't see anything like that in the restrictions or proposed by the builder. And as to the in-law suites, totally opposed to those. In-law suites are good for maybe the first owner. The second owner, uh-oh. There's Mama saying, you've all spent your time. I'm sorry for that interruption. Yeah, there's no way to control who's going to be in that in-law suite after the first sale of the property. So with those considerations, I thank the commission for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. Somebody's trying to get a hold of you, wondering where you're at. All right. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? All right. Anybody online? No? Okay. Then with that, I will close the public portion. I will ask, we have, most PADs require, you can't have this model next to that model. Does that exist in this PAD?
Commissioner Miller, yes, and that's why there's condition number 3, is so that on the plot plan submittal, they're to list certain details to help ensure that you can't have a home with similar elevations next to one another. It's not overly restrictive, but we would try to ensure that you don't have an elevation or color next, the same color or elevation style next to one another.
Okay. So to the question that was asked, there is some safeguard in regards to elevations, floor plans. It could be more restrictive, but it's not currently, and it was just adopted that way in the beginning, but would allow for at least hopefully a more diversified layout along those lots of the different size homes throughout the community. And that's the restriction put on by your actual subdivision that you live in. All right. Other than that, commission. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the product DSA-21-000007 for McCartney Ranches for parcels 3 and 4, subject to the following conditions of the staff.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll bring up discussion that it was discussed on the potential plan number 4083. And I'm just bringing it up as discussion. It's currently excluding it and making them change it. And so if any member would like to speak their opinion on either keeping it or getting rid of it, now's that time during discussion.
I thought the recommendation from staff was to have them bring it up at a later time.
So currently, though, the discussion was from staff that if we could approve that, removing condition number 1, and then they would have to then get a PAD amendment to then allow them to do it. Or if we approve it with condition 1, then we would have to then approve another house product because we've had them remove the kitchen. So they'd have to come forward with the floor plan again. Does that make sense? It's a little bit goofy, I know.
Mr. Chair, I think if you leave condition 1 in, you're right, they'd have to come back with a PAD amendment to allow multi-generational suites, and they'd have to get a new 483 approved. But we could do that at the same meeting. right? And so I don't think it's a big burden, but you're right. If staff's recommendation would be either, that condition one probably either needs to be stay like it is or removed. If you remove it, then they're going to be able to have the multi-generational suite, which technically complies, does not comply with zoning.
But if it doesn't comply with zoning, even though
Commissioner-
it's been approved as a housing product, I just need
Commissioner Miller,
clarification on that, yeah.
The intent of the first condition is so that they can keep 483 as part of their housing product approval, but they would have to modify the standard plan, which would be the next step to remove the kitchen facilities. Really, the scope of your consideration is for the design review. The interior is not as key, except for when there's zoning issues.
I'm
which
tracking where
this
you're going now.
presented.
Yeah, I'm following it.
So the intent wasn't to have you strike their ability to submit plan number 483 altogether, but basically, if you were to approve this as worded, would effectively result in them from either just not presenting that as a standard plan because they're not going to do it, or they could modify their standard plan to remove that kitchen.
Sorry, I'm reading it.
So we got a motion and a second, so
We're in discussion. Yeah, currently. We do have a motion and a second on the table.
I believe it should stay as the motion stands. The applicant seems to be okay with it. We need to move it on later on. We can. They can apply for it.
I like having the ability to have the both kitchens in it, but I think that, that the way it's worded and the way it's put in there would be best to come back with it.
Perfect. So the way it's currently stated,
The way it's-
4083 can be used as approved, assuming they remove the extra kitchen. But then if they get a PAD amendment, they could also leave it because it's already been approved.
Correct.
That's what your point was, right, Jane? Perfect. All right. Let's go to the roll call. Sorry. I told you I was going to milk it, Benedict.
I had to do that.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes,
Chairman Miller,
Let's ponder this for, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, yes. All right. Thank you guys for joining us online. Thank you guys for being here this evening for this meeting. And with that, we will move on to number 7, public hearing and consideration of request by KB Home, conditional use permit DSA 21-00006.
So I'm going to try to make it through this presentation without accidentally calling McCartney Center McCartney Ranch. They start to get all very confusing after a while.
That is fair.
This is a request for a model home complex, which requires a conditional use permit for KB Home within McCartney Center. The proposed site for the model home sales complex is located just on the west side of Rosewood Lane, south of Frontier Street. A little bit of background, KB Home was in front of you a few months ago for approval of housing product that applied to 59 lots that they acquired within parcel AA and 21 lots that they required within parcel EE. You approved 8 home plans, each with 3 elevations ranging from 1,300 square feet to 2,300 square feet. Now they're in front of you this evening requesting an ability to build a model home complex which will help showcase some of the homes and to help accommodate sales. Here's an excerpt of the conditional use permit model home complex site plan. The two end lots, the one on the far north and the one on the far south, will be temporary off-street parking areas. The corner lot near Frontier Street will be for the real estate agents and potential home seekers to park. And then the far lot on the south will be for the construction crew parking. And both will be laid with DG, and they're both considered temporary. The lot next to the corner will be the 1,400 square foot home, where its garage will be temporarily used as will function as a sales office. And of course, one of the conditions of the conditional use permit is at the time of its expiration, the garage will be restored so that it could be a functioning garage in lieu of an office. The home to the south of that is an 1,800 square foot home, and its garage will be temporarily used as a construction office with that same condition that it'll have to be restored back for use of a garage. When reviewing conditional use permits, these are the criteria that have to be evaluated, and the staff report goes into each of these in more detail. But for model home complexes, it primarily pertains to providing conditions that are determined necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. And so focusing on that specific criteria, there's a list of special conditions that are reflected in the associated resolution with this conditional use permit. And these are all fairly boilerplate. They apply to most conditional use permits for model home complexes. As far as the public notification process, it met, if not exceeded, that which is required by the code. There were no public comments received as a result of this public notification. And as a result, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and its associated resolution for McCartney Center, parcels AA and EE, subject to these following conditions, and also within your staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? No? All right. Applicant and or their representative?
Hello, this is Angelica Cruz-Chavez with KB Home. I'm just want to say thank you for taking a look at this today. I don't have any additional comments, but I'm here if you have any questions that I might be able to answer.
Any questions for the applicant? No? Thank you for patiently waiting as the last person on the agenda.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. At this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Anybody from the public? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Members of the commission?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve conditional use permit for KB Homes Sales Complex, DSA 21-00006, with the associated resolutions and special conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ellie, would you please call the roll?
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. Motion approved. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reports by the planning director. I would like you to go through this detailed, please. I'd like line by line.
So,
Slowly.
let's,
Slowly. Speak slowly. It's late and I'm not processing as quick.
I'll give you an update on the decisions that council made on your recommendations.
hang on.
So first off was a zoning text amendment to allow essentially manufactured home parks to have private streets as well as public, and that was approved by council. There was also a request for the Buttes at Sundance to change the zoning of that property from PAD for single-family development to a mobile home park, R4. There was, had a lot of discussion at council, a lot of it around the certificates of assured water supply, and that the rezoning was going to result in them not being utilized potentially. It was a split vote 4-2. And all of these I'm telling you about were first readings. They're up for second reading and final decision on next Tuesday night, the 16th. The third item was the zone change from Urban Ranch to I-2 on Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. That was passed with no really discussion. And then lastly, there was the zone change request to amend the PAD, the Mission Royale PAD, to allow the auto park. And although there was a lot of discussion on that, council approved that unanimously. So all of those were approved on first reading. They still have one more reading. In your packet, in addition, I gave you the monthly totals for building and code enforcement, so you got to see what the January building activity was. So that was provided to you, as well as the fiscal year, which is July 1st. But I also gave you this additional bar chart that shows you the residential building permits throughout the last decade, for the last 10 years. And so to give you a perspective of the activity of what we're really faced with right now, and this, you can see that the numbers have gone up significantly, and we're continuing to be pretty active. So with that, that's all I have to offer this evening, Mr. Chair.
How many home builders do we have in town?
17.
Do you know the numbers from like 05, 06?
About, in the peak, maybe 2,500 in a year. So it's almost still.
So we're almost there. We got to double one more time, because it looks like we've doubled.
We're on the way. We're on the way.
We're on our way, huh? Seems exciting. All right, we're gonna go line by line on the building permit valuation report. All right. Thank y'all for being here. Adjourn.
Wow.